Good morning and welcome everybody. First of all, I really appreciate those of you who are here. We are well aware of the fact that there are some competing events going on at the moment, but thank you in any case. So this is a big moment for us, and I would first like to introduce you to my colleagues who have been working very, very hard at the development of the National Geographic Endurance. I'd like to start with Captain Leif Skog, who is the most experienced expedition captain on the planet, without doubt. Nikos Doulis, who heads up our new build program, and Trey Bias, who works on developing all of our programs, our itineraries, and our field staff, our resource staff. And they're all going to be talking to you about different aspects of the endurance in a moment. Now, in 1969, a great fellow, a fellow by the name of Lars-Erik Lindblad, who I'm honored to say was my father, built and launched a ship called the Lindblad Explorer. This was the first purpose-built passenger ship in the world. It was a very high ice class ship. He'd been going to the Antarctic for several years on chartered Navy vessels, but then he decided to build his own, and he brought people to this magnificent continent. Now we, as Lindblad Expeditions, wanted to build a sort of new generation of polar vessel, which we have designed, and it is in the process of being built, called the National Geographic Endurance. This vessel is a remarkable vessel, and I'm going to have Leif and Nikos tell you more details about her in a moment. But we can go to places unfathomable before, literally where no man has gone before. And we're only going to take 126 guests, because one of the key elements of this ship, and our fleet more broadly, is that we do not want to be in the world's wild places with too many people. From the perspective of the experience that we offer to our guests, and absolutely from the perspective of the impact we can have on these different areas. So we are going to be offering some very, very new geography to places, and Trey's going to be talking to you about that in detail. We are very, very focused on the intersection between a traveler's experience, a traveler's desire to see extraordinary things, and the importance of science. This will be a platform for gathering science that I believe, and we all believe, will be extremely valuable to increase our knowledge about the world and all that's in it. So I would like to introduce you to Captain Leif Skog. Now, Leif heads our nautical division. He was chairman of the IATO, which is the International Association of Antarctic Tour Operators. He was the chairman of their safety committee for many years, and as I said before, is without doubt the most experienced expedition captain on Earth. Leif?
Thank you, Sven. Endurance is indeed a very unique vessel. It's a PC5 Category A ice ship, very high ice class. Highest ice rating of any passenger vessel ever built. It's technically an icebreaker. That means we can cruise all year round in polar waters. Another striking feature is the X-bow, which enables a smooth and comfortable ride in all sea conditions. The ship is very fuel efficient with that X-bow, because the X-bow is slicing through the waves, so it's no slamming, so it's not any pitching. It's very, very, very smooth, and as I said, fuel efficient. The range of the vessel is 15,000 nautical miles, 2/3 around the world, without refueling. So we can offer over 30 days expeditions, and we have provision for more than 40 days as a safety. Other safety features, except what is regulation required on the bridge, is that we have ice radar, sonar, high-resolution night vision forward-looking cameras to see icebergs, growlers, etc. during the night. The end result, Endurance will be able to travel deeper into the ice for longer periods of time.
Thank you, Leif. So Trey Bias, as I said, he heads up our Expedition Development Department. We've been working together for 25 years, kind of like my brother. So Trey, please.
Thanks, Ben. Yeah, well, we're obviously excited about a lot of features on National Geographic Endurance. One of the features I get most excited about are the observation viewing areas. We've given a lot of thought to this because, as any of you who know, who've been out on expedition with us, you know you spend a lot of time out on deck. You're looking at landscapes, you're looking for wildlife, you're looking for bow-riding dolphins, for instance. You're looking for polar bears, you're looking for all of this amazing wildlife, but you want to have a good view to it. You want it to be unobstructed. And on this vessel, as you can see with the bow-riding dolphins, you have an unobstructed sightline right down to the water. And that's really key, whether it be dolphins or whales or polar bears off in the distance that maybe get a little curious and come up to the ship. You just have great viewing platforms. And they're all over the vessel here. So you've got the observation wing right here, which is a forward-looking area on the side of the ship. You've got 3 observation decks on the ship that can accompany more than everybody on the vessel, so there's plenty of room, lots of elbow room, lots of room to get out, and easy access back into the comfortable parts of the ship as well. So a lot of thought has gone into the observation viewing areas, and that's really important. You know, another area I'm really excited about is what we call the hut, or the mudroom. Now this is a warm, welcoming area. It's a practical area. It's where you put your parkas, your hiking boots, your rubber boots, your walking sticks, things of that nature, because after all, you're going to get geared up to go out and explore these areas, and you want to do it in a place that's comfortable. And so we put a lot of thought into the design of this area as well, and this is where people gear up to get out there on the Zodiacs and kayaks and go ashore. Speaking of getting off the ship, we've also put a lot of thought into the Zodiac loading platform. You can load these Zodiacs from multiple places very quickly, very efficiently, very safely, and that'll get everybody out in a very quick and efficient time to spend more time off the vessel. As nice as the vessel is, you really want to get out there and explore. So we're really focused on that as well. Before I throw it back to Nikos to talk a little bit more about the interior of the vessel, there's a part to the guest cabins that I'm also really excited about. So I just want to touch on that briefly here. And that's the command center that's found in every guest cabin. So as you can see, it's a blend of historical and new. We've got sort of an homage to the nautical heritage of the company with an analog clock. We've got a barometer. We've got an incline meter that tells you the incline of the ship. And then we've got a high-definition modern television screen that will be available for TV channels or viewing presentations or what have you. We also have an iPad here, so if you're interested in the timing of the presentations or when the outings are or all the activities or anything going on the ship, the iPad will have that program and other things, other relevant information on it. Of course, we have our National Geographic Atlas, as we do on all the ships, which really highlights the relationship with National Geographic. So it's just a really well thought out area, and it's in every guest cabin. Throw it back to Sven now.
Thank you, Trey. So Nikos, we found Nikos, he came from Celebrity Cruises, he worked with TUI Cruises, Royal Caribbean, an enormous amount of expertise, and these companies have tremendous ability, technical abilities, and we recognize that the Endurance and the ships we'll be building in the future are indeed complex. And Nikos has a particular characteristic which I've learned to admire greatly, which is he really has valued the input of the different people in the organization, this long, long history of expedition heritage, and combined that with his technical and his artistic expertise. So Nikos is going to tell you.
Thanks so much, Sven. As you said, the input from Lindblad expeditions and all these years back, it is the basic principle to design an amazing vessel like the Endurance. So in this road, we hire also one of the best design companies, Partners in Design from Hamburg, to bring quietly luxurious Scandinavian design to the ship. The ship's interiors are all about fire and ice. The ice lounge is the center of the expedition. There we have amazing presentations, from worldwide lecturers and our amazing expedition leaders. And in the meantime, you can see with high-end audiovisual system, and they bring the outside in with floor-to-ceiling windows. With a circle of truth and web location screens, you can see an amazing source of all of our presenters. And then we have the den. The den is an amazing space on the top of the deck that you can relax, have cognacs, and discuss what happened in an amazing expedition day with your colleagues, friends, and our expedition people. Then we have built infinity-type jacuzzis that you can see the ice, you can see the Antarctica in a warm environment in the edge of the vessel. We built 2 saunas that it is different temperature in every sauna, for very hot sauna and a little bit less temperature, for all the people to feel comfortable with floor-to-glass windows. And then we have 13 luxurious suites with balconies, with warm colors, rich fabrics, and walk-in closets. We have each suite's name out of the famous polar explorer. And then we have 56 suites, 40 of them with amazing balconies, and 12 solo cabins. The bathrooms in the suites are amazing built, thinking of every detail of a savvy traveler to have an amazing time after a good expedition day. With delightful details, this command center that Trey talked about, and the art court of the ship will be very, very special, and keep in line to see what we have to present for the arts in the future.
Okay, thank you. By the way, Nikos, just before you leave, you neglected to mention the yoga studio, which is a really, really important feature, particularly in this day and age, where so many people of all ages find that important and valuable.
Yeah, and you can see the yoga studio. It's one of the best yoga studios ever built at sea. That has floor-to-ceiling windows also, looking the aft of the vessel. And if you have a good day, also you can extend the yoga lesson in the outside and inside.
Okay, thank you very much, Nikos. I think there's part of me that wants to rename the ship the Glass Ship, because it is a massive amount of glass. The whole philosophy of the company clearly is to focus on the outside. We are a ship that focuses outwardly. We want every possible connection to the outdoors. The ship itself is really, we think about it more as kind of a base camp, albeit this does not look like your traditional base camp because it is extremely, extremely comfortable. Now, we realize that that food obviously is very important. Every expedition to some degree marches on its stomach, and the Endurance has several dining options. We recognize that when people are aboard for a while, they want different kinds of experiences. This is what we're calling the 270 room, because basically it's 270 degrees of glass surrounding it. I cannot wait to be in that dining room, because I cannot imagine what it will be like to be there and to see everything outside and be so connected. Then we have a couple of decks up, we have Sea Greens. We're calling it Sea Greens. That's named after Shackleton's cook. And this is a more relaxed sort of area, a sort of bistro area, where people can elect to go if they choose to have something a little bit quicker and a little bit something a bit lighter. Then we have a new concept that we have an area where we'll have a chef's table, where everybody aboard will have the opportunity to participate in at some point during the vessel, some point during the voyage. This will be a great place for some very good Jeffersonian kind of conversation. At least that's what I hope will happen there. And then we have the opportunity to have people go outside. Obviously, we're in polar regions, so you're not going to go out there in your shirt sleeves, but we're going to find ways to make that as warm as possible for the days that you might wish to be outside. So I think we put a lot of thought into that. And one last thing about food, and I think it's important, is it's from our perspective, we don't use terms like gourmet or 5-star or anything of that nature, mainly because we're not particularly comfortable with the relevance of those terms for ourselves. But what we do like to think about, we like to think about food as being relevant or connected to an area. You may even have a meal on board designed after one of the meals from the Shackleton expedition. Now, that won't be your best meal, but it certainly will be an interesting one. And everywhere we go, we try and find some way to connect with culture and to bring that into the dining experience. So, Trey, will you tell us a little bit about where we're going?
Yeah, absolutely. There's obviously a lot of excitement about the ship itself, which there should be. This is an amazing vessel. But we're maybe even more excited about the places that the ship is going to take you. It's been built, purpose-built to take you to some absolutely extraordinary polar areas. So in the first year, the Arctic inaugural season, we have 8 different itineraries, but which we've specially designed, and we've built 3 of them to places that we really haven't been before, at least not at that time of year. So we've built it off of our own history and heritage, our own research in the past, and we've also built it off of some recent research. You're seeing some imagery here behind me of a reconnaissance that Sven and Leif and I did earlier this year. We went up to Svalbard in the springtime to see it at its whitest, its iciest, its most pristine, and we were absolutely blown away. I mean, truly blown away. It's a photographer's paradise because there's golden hour for hours. Sunrise, sunset, that soft light that you're seeing behind me, absolutely spectacular. And you don't even need to be a photographer to enjoy it. I mean, look at this. It's just absolutely aesthetically stunning. So it's a great time to be there. There's still all the walrus, the bear, the mothers and their cubs are actually coming out of their dens at this time of year, so we might be really lucky to see that. But it's just a really extraordinary time, the month of April, to be in Svalbard. Another expedition we've specially designed and are still putting some finishing touches on right now is the Northeast Passage. That is the northern sea route from Europe, from Norway in particular, across the top of Russia, all the way over to Alaska. This is an historic sea route. There's been exploration history here before, but there has not been a lot of tourism at all in this area. You need a very high ice class vessel. You need the experience that we have amongst our staff, both in the office and on the vessel, and you need a really good, strong ship like we have. So we've built this vessel to visit islands like Franz Josef Land, Severnaya Zemlya, Novaya Zemlya, the East Siberian Islands, Wrangel Island. I'm sure you haven't heard of these places, or maybe some of you have. But I'm sure many of you haven't been to these places, and that's really the point. We know there's amazing things up there, and we know there's people that are really anxious to get there, because this is truly pristine, pure Arctic wilderness. You have, again, all the whales and some species that may be bucket list species. You've got narwhals, belugas, and many other species of whale. You've got the seals, you've got huge colonies of walrus, seabirds galore, and of course, the polar bear. We're really excited about the potential to see polar bears on this voyage. And we don't often talk about numbers of polar bears we might see. You just never know. Mother Nature's in control, and we always see some polar bears, but we never know how many. But I'm telling you right now, we're going to be counting them in the dozens on this voyage. It is all about polar bears and everything else, of course. So very, very excited about the Northeast Passage. Another area that we're really excited about is Northeast Greenland. This is an area we haven't been before. We have been to East Greenland and a fair distance up on that east coast of Greenland, but not all the way up to Northeast Greenland. There's a national park up there that you may have heard about, or maybe not. It is the largest national park on Earth. Think about that for a second. Largest national park on Earth, and most people have never even heard of it, let alone been there. The reason they haven't been there is because it is surrounded by ice year-round. The ice does relent a little bit in September, sort of towards the end of the season, but it's still very ice-covered, and it's very difficult to get in there. Again, the reason we built the National Geographic Endurance to that high ice class standard was to take people where you otherwise couldn't go. And we are going to take you there safely, and we're going to go in an exploratory kind of way like we've never done before. We've never been there. We'll go to spots that nobody has ever been to, quite literally. So we're really excited about Northeast Greenland. All the wildlife we've been talking about would also be seen up in Northeast Greenland. And as you come down that coast, you'll even visit some native villages. And it's a really diverse, fun, exploratory type cruise. So we're really excited about that expedition, as with all the expeditions we've designed for that inaugural season. And we hope you can come join us.
So now we have to go beyond the Arctic. So we've launched in the spring of 2020 with the Endurance. We're going through the Northeast Passage a couple of times. We're going up to Northeast Greenland. Now we're going to start heading south towards Antarctica. This is sort of like her home port. I think her home port is Antarctica. And we're going to be able to do things that we have never done since way back in the 70s. So the first voyage I personally ever went on in Antarctica was from New Zealand down to the subantarctic islands, Macquarie and Campbell, to the Ross Sea. I'm trying to follow this here. And across to the Antarctic Peninsula. This was a 35-day voyage. And through this section, we never stopped. Because the Lindblad Explorer was a very, very strong ice class vessel, but not that strong so that we could really get into the deep ice that there is a lot of in Western Antarctica. In any case, we are going to sort of recreate that voyage, albeit with capacity that we absolutely have never had before next winter, or the winter of 2020 and 21. Again, just to emphasize, we built a ship based on where we wanted to go. We didn't build a ship and then say, where are we going? So these are geographies that we just deeply, deeply want to be able to show people, because we're convinced that everybody has an explorer gene in them. And if you join us on the Endurance, or in fact any of our other vessels, you will have the opportunity to explore. You will be amongst explorers, and I promise you, you will see some of the most remarkable things on the planet. So thank you very, very much for joining us. Now from what I understand, there are some questions, and we would love to be able to answer them. Okay, so the first question is, can you discuss the ratio of guests to staff aboard? Trey, why don't you take that one?
Sure. When we talk about staff, we talk about our expedition staff, the natural history staff, the expedition leaders, your lecturers, the biologists, the cultural specialists, the undersea specialists, et cetera. So that ratio is better than 10 to 1. When some companies talk about staff, though, they're talking about the entire complement of the vessel. So all of the officers, all the crew, and all the expedition staff. And when we talk about it in those terms, it's almost 1 to 1. Truly extraordinary ratio.
Okay. So the next question is, what is the difference between a Class 5 and a Ice Class 5, Ice Class 6 ship? And I get that these are complicated things to sort of figure out, because they're very subtle in many, many ways. But Leif, would you take that?
Yes, to make it simple, is that the PC 6 and 7, those ice classes are what's normally is built among the passenger vessels. They're not an icebreaker, but PC 5 is actually technically an icebreaker.
Okay. Okay, so the lower the number, the strong. Just in case any of you are watching out there, the lower the number, the stronger the ship. So it's counterintuitive, but that's the way it is. So the next question is, with a proliferation of expedition ships joining the market, can you explain why Lindblad Expeditions still offers the ultimate experience? Well, first of all, we've been at this a really, really, really long time. And what does that do? Well, you learn a lot about geography. You learn a lot about the kinds of teams that are necessary to be in these places. You learn a lot about how you can visit these places without doing harm. And so I would say it's really, really in our DNA. I mean, expedition travel is all we've ever done. It's not a sideline. It's not a new idea. It's what we've done for a very, very, very long time. And so from our perspective, there are three primary ingredients to a successful expedition. There's a deep understanding of geography, its possibilities and its limitations. There's the importance of teams, navigators, expedition leaders, scientists, people who understand expectations of our guests, can stretch the possibilities while at the same time doing it within the parameters of safety. And then the third is, what's the right hardware? What are the right ships that can accomplish the mission? And we're pretty laser focused on that, or very laser focused on that. And I can't and I won't speak about other companies as such, but I do believe that we're so deeply committed to and have been doing this for such a long time. And I really, really, in my heart of hearts, believe that if you are going to these wild places, going with us is absolutely the best choice. Are your voyages aboard Endurance? Sorry, I'm reading a question, so that's why I'm looking like this. Are your voyages aboard Endurance inclusive?
All inclusive.
All inclusive. Yeah. Trey, why don't you take that?
The simple answer is yes. I mean, in the traditional cruise ship model, you pay for your excursions ashore, you pay for this, you pay for that, you pay for the other. Our experience is all inclusive, yes. And that goes so far as to say, we include the gratuities to the ship's crew. We include your bar tab. We even include that parka that you may have seen an image of before, but we've got a great inaugural season parka that we'll include as well. So in simplest terms, yes, it's all inclusive.
Oh. So this is an interesting question. Where will there be opportunities for cross-country skiing and snowshoeing? Well, a couple of years ago, we introduced the opportunity to cross-country ski and snowshoe and in the Antarctic. And so we will absolutely continue to do that in the Antarctic and probably places in the Arctic. It's all very much condition dependent because, and it's particularly possible in the earlier part of seasons in those geographies. So the next question is, why go to the Arctic in spring? What are the conditions like? So, as Trey mentioned before, Leif, Trey, myself, another member of our expedition team, my 18-year-old son, a couple of photographers, we went towards the latter part of March. We hired this Swedish icebreaker and said, let's go out and have a look and see what's going on up there. When I first went to Svalbard back in the 1970s, the early 1970s, we wouldn't even consider going up there before late July, mainly because, or solely because, there would be too much ice. So this is obviously a sad situation on from certain perspectives. There's less ice, and that's not a good thing by any measure. But it does allow us to look at these areas at times of year we wouldn't have even contemplated before. So spring, it turns out, and we didn't know that as a fact, but we found out in March, is unbelievably beautiful. You still have a significant amount of sea ice. The mountain peaks are all covered in snow. There's lots of wildlife, and there's pretty much nobody there. There is one downside, depending on your point of view, which is it's damn cold. However, if you dress properly, and we will help you figure that part out, that's really not a problem. And then coming back to the Endurance, that's going to be a great base camp for being in perhaps one of the most beautiful places in the world at one of the most beautiful times. So, what's the most unique marine and wildlife that guests will see on your inaugural voyages? Trey, why don't you take that?
Yeah, that's a great question. When you talk about unique marine wildlife, boy, I immediately start thinking of the undersea, and we have an undersea program that takes both divers, our own staff divers, out to record what they see undersea. And in these polar environments, you don't think of the undersea as being rich, but it is. It's rich, it's colorful, and our divers and our ROV, the remotely operated vehicle, has the ability to get out there and find things, quite literally, that have never been seen before. We have been sending some imagery back from time to time to scientists saying, hey, look at what we found. What is this? And they have no idea. And so the guests are all a part of that experience. So you can see something perhaps new to science in the undersea, and then above the sea and on land, we do go to places where there are endemic birds. Just as for instance, at Macquarie, you've got the royal penguin there. So that's an endemic species of penguin found only on Macquarie Island. So on that voyage that we were talking about, that Sven was talking about at the end, you won't find that species of bird anywhere else on the planet. So if you want to see it, go there. You'll see lots of other great stuff too.
The next question is really been dealt with by Trey in the former question because it had to do with the ROV and the undersea program. So are there any other questions? Tell us about the photography program aboard. Well, this is we've been involved with National Geographic for 14 years. We've been partnered with them for 14 years as it relates to expedition travel. And one of the great benefits of that relationship is that National Geographic, of course, has extraordinary photographers. And many of those photographers are traveling on several of our ships, the National Geographic Orion, the National Geographic Explorer, and will join us on every voyage of the National Geographic Endurance. But what they've also done, or what we've also done in conjunction with National Geographic, is trained our a cadre of photographers of our own to develop expertise. So we're not totally reliant on National Geographic photographers. And so we have several people on board any particular expedition that can teach about photography and help you learn more and learn about your camera, learn about how to deal with post-production, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very, very important part of the program. And we also have a deep relationship with an organization called B&H. If you want a camera, go to B&H. You've heard the advertising line. This is the best place in the world to get equipment. And they have the most amazing people who can help you understand what it is you might want, should want, how to work it, et cetera, et cetera. And we've developed a loaner program with B&H where we have equipment that you might not want to buy, or certainly not want to buy right away because it could be very expensive, it can be a bit esoteric, but you can try it out aboard and see if you like it, and then go to B&H and get your own. So it's a very, very important part of our program, photography. So this is a question for Leif. So Captain Leif, we have traveled with you. How many times have you been to Antarctica? And can we look forward to joining you on this ship?
Yes, I came down to Antarctica the first time in 1979. And I've been down to Antarctica more or less every season since. I have not counted exactly, but it's over 200 cruises. And I always have been dreaming about a new vessel that can go deeper into the ice and stay longer in the ice. So therefore, I really invite everyone to join me on the Endurance. I'm not going to retire yet, so I'm going to continue some more years. I have to, because this is something special.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Leif, you're not allowed to ever retire.
Thank you, Sven.
Totally
One day, though.
out of the question. So thank you very, very much for your questions. And hopefully this was informative, and hopefully we will see you out there one of these days. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.